Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Robert Pease, and we're going to be talking a little bit today about some results of a recent survey we did here at Lead Method. I'm the CMO here, and we were interested in getting a better understanding of something we see all the time when we interact with manufacturers around the handoffs, the lack of visibility, the lack of feedback that exists to anyone who sells majority of their business through distributors and independent representatives. And so that's what we're calling the distributor sales gap, and we're going to dig a little bit into the results. As we get into this, just a moment about Lead Method and what we do. We're sort of unique in the industry and the focus that we have around this particular challenge of distributor relationship management, and we call this distributor relationship management software, which essentially is building the bridge and connecting the dots between those who manufacture products and those who sell on their behalf, distributors, independent reps, primarily around lead sharing, lead follow-up, and most importantly in this is the feedback mechanism in terms of the leads that are shared. A lot of times things get handed off and you have no idea if there's been any follow-up or what the relative quality of that is. So those are the problems we solve. We'll get more into that moving forward here. As far as our discussion today, we're going to focus on three core areas. One, the scope and the purpose of the survey, kind of why we did it and what we learned around the key findings, which would be the second piece of it. And then not too much on how we do this. We certainly would love to have a conversation with anyone that may be interested in specifically how we fit to their situation. But I think it's important to understand that we've built a platform here at Lead Method that directly addresses many of the challenges and the gaps that we saw as a result of this survey. So as we went down the road and decided we were going to do this, we think it's very important, right, to get a good understanding of the voice of our market. And so we had three things we wanted to do. One, we wanted to ask manufacturers who sell through distributors about their sales and marketing practices. And this is not if this is an incidental part of your business. These are people that have 40, 50, or greater percent of their business running through distributors and independent reps. Second, we wanted to understand where any gaps may exist, specifically around lead follow-up rates and feedback on those leads. So both downstream in terms of handing those leads into the channel, as well as the back upstream feedback in terms of the quality, closability, relevance, all those different types of things. Something that we've seen all the time in the marketplace as being a huge issue. And the third thing we wanted to do was quantify this a little bit. We wanted to measure the true financial impact of the lost revenue and wasted marketing spend that can come when this situation exists, right? When this gap exists between the manufacturer and their distributors. What we wanted to do was give a little insight into the types of companies that we talked to in the course of this survey. One of the primary questions was around what percentage of products are sold through reps or distributors. You really see this problem when that ratio gets beyond 50%. And you'll see here that the majority of our respondents has sold 75% or more of their products through distributors. So we thought it was a good sample in that regard. This is a little lopsided, but also is an important criteria for us, which is we wanted to understand what percentage of those that we were surveying actually send leads to their reps or distributors. And you'll see here, certainly off the charts, 100% of the folks that we had talked to did that. And then the third dimension here was the overall size of the rep or distributors that they were working with on a daily basis. And you'll see here that we got roughly half or so that have more than 50 reps or distributors that they interact on a basis. And so some skewed a little higher, some skewed a little bit lower, but on the whole, about half or so are 50 or more. And then we get into some of the interesting data points as we ask some questions here. And so one of the first questions was around of the leads you send to distributors, and keep in mind everyone sends leads. What percentage are contacted? And there's a couple things that jump out about this. One is only 37%, roughly a third, report that 75% or more of the leads they share receive follow-up, right? So 2/3 of the companies are somewhere south of that. What was more interesting, if you look at the bottom of the chart here, is that over 30% don't know. They just literally don't know if the leads they're sharing are getting any type of follow-up whatsoever. That was such a dramatic focus on this gap that we have been talking about here. We thought that was a really important data point. But even if it's 50%, right, half the leads you're sharing, you have no idea if they're being followed up on. You don't know what the process is, or unfortunately, right, that maybe that many are not actually being followed up on. So it's a big deal. It certainly is a big deal, and this was a data point that validated that for us. Another question we wanted to know was, so that was the downstream sort of sharing or people getting follow-up. We also wanted to know about the more upstream back to the manufacturer in terms of feedback, right? So you're sharing leads. Again, our sample size here is 100% of them are sharing leads with their distributors. How many are receiving any type of feedback on it? And only 10% of the companies we surveyed report getting feedback on 75% or more of the leads shared, right? So 90% of the companies out there get little to no feedback on the leads they're generating, that they're investing money in to hand off to their reps and distributors to try to drive revenue. And what was really striking about this, 35% or so stated that they got it on less than 20% of the leads. So there's a lot of activity going on, but clearly not a lot of communication going on in terms of the quality. And so if leads continue to be generated and they're missing the mark, well, month over month, year over year, that investment continues to be made and continues to miss the mark for the distributors. We then went on and wanted to know what was sort of the scope of the leads shared. Again, everyone's sharing leads. We now know that not a whole lot of them actually have any confidence that they're getting feedback or any real confidence in terms of that any are getting followed up on. So what kind of volume are we talking about here? Well, it was very interesting, right? So almost half of the companies we surveyed generate 50 leads or more per month for their distributors and reps, right? So that's quite a few being generated, especially if you begin to look into some metrics around like cost per lead and demand gen program spend. That's a significant investment to try to drive the channel and try to drive revenue and product through the channel. So if we take those sort of foundational data points and we look at what the potential exposure is, the financial impact of these results, we're going to go into two areas. One is around wasted marketing spend. The other is the revenue side of the equation. But at a minimum, looking at the spend that goes on in terms of the number of distributor relationships that someone has, 50 or so. So this is consistent with our survey data. The number of leads shared per month per distributor. This is again kind of consistent with our data. The cost per lead, we're going to use a number of $85 here. This could be anywhere between $50 and $500 depending on your industry. And we're going to assume a relatively low follow-up rate of 20%, again, influenced and themed around the data we got. So let's just look at what this means math-wise, right? So the monthly lead investment this manufacturer is making is north of $200,000. So they feed 50 distributors, 50 leads a month, and they spend $85 for each of those leads. The lost leads, the ones that receive no follow-up, right? The 80% that receive no follow-up, right? There's 2,000 leads a month that are getting absolutely no follow-up, which pencils out to roughly $170,000 per month or $3,400 per distributor per month in terms of wasted marketing spend, purely because there's nothing in place that allows the handoff and the follow-up and the visibility to be any better. And that's very much what we're focused on here at Lead Method. And so for your company, right, whether you're bigger than this or smaller than this, more distributors, less, higher or lower lead volume, you can run the levers here and see what the financial impact is. And it's a really interesting way to look at this problem and certainly want to prioritize it as part of your business. The other side of this to look at, or the top line side of this to look at, let's say, is the revenue. And this uses our same sort of 50 distributors, 50 leads per month model, 20% follow-up rate. Well, clearly we're not going to close everything that gets handed off, right? So let's assume a 25% close rate because there's some level of qualification that's happened ahead of time. The deal value, let's say, is $2,000. Again, this is going to vary based on your business and types of products you sell, but you get the point here. So what basically this says is based on this lead volume, right, and based on the conversion rate we've assigned, there's 625 deals per month that are possible, right? 50 distributors, 50 leads, and a 25% close rate, right? Which means that we have essentially a possible revenue of $1.25 million, $1.25 million. But the actual deals being done per month, right, based on our follow-up rates are 125. So what that means is we're losing $1 million across 500 deals per month in this particular situation. So again, the numbers may vary a little bit based on your business, based on your number of distributors, but the cost of not following up, the cost of not understanding quality or having a mechanism in place to get details on the feedback of the leads that you're sharing with your distributors is significant. So this is a sign that we love to use here at Lead Method, right? This is the crossroads. Wow, you're right. This is a big deal. What do we do? Well, we can live with it or we can fix it. A lot of times companies decide that if it's not a big enough problem or it doesn't have as big of a financial impact, is it really worth prioritizing as one of the top things? And I think when you look at it in the way that we've shown here, especially when you look at it based on the survey results, it absolutely needs to be addressed. And so what we do here at Lead Method is we help you fix it. And we look at this in terms of three legs of the stool, if you will, right? One is all around distributor engagement, right? Building this communication and collaboration platform with those who sell products on your behalf, right? Your distributors and your reps. And this is not able to be done by your existing software that runs inside your four walls. Your CRM system might do a great job with your internal sales team, your inside sales team, your direct sales team, but it's really going to fall down when you begin to look outside of that. And that's really where Lead Method shines. The other piece around visibility and analytics here, a second leg of the stool. Again, this is knowing, and you go back to the survey data that we had, and so many of the respondents didn't know. They didn't know if stuff was being followed up on, right, or they were getting absolutely no feedback on these programs they're running for the benefit of their distributors. And then what this all wraps around that leads to the middle here around more revenue is that we're able to make decisions based on data, not gut feel, not what we think, not what we assume. It's a data-driven level of decision that knows the level of quality, the level of close rate, the level of follow-up that happens for the different types of leads and the different types of distributors that go out there, so we understand a little better about who's a high performer, maybe who needs some additional hands-on touch, who we're enabling well, maybe who we're not doing so well with. But again, the goal here, you take these three pieces and it all rolls together to generate more revenue. And what we've seen at Lead Method, right, we certainly have seen increases of revenue 20% or higher just by deploying our platform, but you'll see real interesting things that happen, right? You'll see massive increases in feedback and engagement. Instead of just having this sort of universe of distributors out there that interact with you every once in a while, this builds a direct line of communication both ways, which I think is incredibly important. It also takes so many steps out of the process, right? You're able to go to one place and see what's going on, understand status, understand quality, understand all the things that you need to that have taken many steps or lots of spreadsheets in the past. And again, right, at the end of the day, the reason that you would make this investment is to increase the revenue. And we've laid out in the course of this discussion, right, all these places where there's opportunity to both lift the top line, right, in terms of additional revenue opportunity, but also to impact the expense structure, right, and be smarter about the marketing dollars that you're spending. So we think it's a compelling set of data. We'd love to tell you more about it. I'd love to cut it in a couple different ways. We certainly have spent a lot of time on that once we've gotten it. And I think this is something we're going to do on a pretty routine basis because, we see this as a big need in the market. Our customers are pleased when we're able to get a deployment in place, which doesn't take a lot of effort on anybody's part, and really address some of these areas. So if you're interested in some additional information, here's some contact info. You certainly can go to our website and read a little bit more about us. Give us a call, or you're welcome to contact me directly at rps@leadmethod.com. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time and attention today, and we will look forward to talking to you going forward.